license.
Got that.
People aren't supposed to know that.
Died too.
Really getting an accident?
He's in the
Oh my
hospital.
gosh, blue.
He was in the hospital with a cracked cranium.
He's on a ventilator, but they take him off for COVID patients.
Are you guys ready?
Just think about this year, COVID. Do we really need to do this research paper?
Yeah.
No.
Just think about it. I think we should pick one. Research paper or the final test? Final.
Here you go.
Wait. What is this?
Oh, the simple random.
Do we have access to these questions?
I'm recording this, so yeah.
Oh, I love recording.
Oh, that should be plus or minus. So
Isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So that should be like 115 plus or minus 0.01 or 0.82.
Rather than.
Trying, but I do not know how to do
Population.
Oh, wait. I'm not doing anything this
it.
week.
Are we not gonna do the topics and stuff for our paper?
That's his first one.
We are.
Wait, did you say what?
What did you say?
We are, provided you get through this in time.
Which we won't. Just looks.
Actually, this is pretty simple. Isn't this
The simple mathematical equation, all the same.
What's
Do we
this?
use a test for this?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
What is the population? So it's a Z?
Yeah.
No, it's a T test.
What do you think? Z or T?
Andrew, you think it's a Z test or a Z?
I have it right now.
Oh my God.
Give me a sec.
Z test when given the population standard deviation.
What's Z test?
Have you been given that?
So, yeah.
Isn't Z interval?
It's an interval, right?
Yeah, Z interval.
What's the standard deviation?
10.
Is that for the population or the sample? So is this a Z interval or T interval?
Huh?
T.
It's T, right?
So why is it T interval? Yes.
Because it's better.
Samples T, I guess.
Because you have the sample standard deviation.
I'm trying to find this paper. Shit, we haven't done this in a while.
No, it's like.
I don't remember what number.
I remember some of your ones.
Okay, so
The X bar is the sample, or the mean, right?
That's the mean, yeah.
so that'd be 150.
115.
115, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Standard deviation.
I think it's.
What's N?
What is N?
Isn't it like the value?
Is that,
That's X.
it's 3,000.
3,000.
N is 3,000.
Are we in T?
N, is it N 150? Or
Is it N 3,000?
Oh,
Is
Sample size. Little n is sample size.
it
Wait, so what is that?
Sample size is 3,000.
No.
3,000?
Did you sample 3,000?
150.
Oh, 150.
There you go.
150.
And what's the?
N is 150.
And then S is the duration.
Yep.
What's the confidence?
99.
You tell me.
Peter, how confident are you?
Is it stats, right?
112 plus or minus 117.
Yeah,
Whoa.
It's not easy.
So which one?
E?
Wait,
E.
oh, yeah, wait, so-
Choo,
Yeah, I think it is E.
You do a little bit faltering.
Oh, it's C?
What?
Did you do a T interval?
Yeah,
115 was the,
mean.
N was 150.
It's 2.1 away from 115.
Did you, yeah, 115 minus 2.1, what's that?
That'd be 112.
I did not think of
Wait, Andrew, what'd you get? 111?
Just kidding.
What's 112.87?
Did that come out?
Yeah.
So C?
Yeah. So you just add that to this?
Yeah, it should be plus or minus.
It's not.
It will be. So 112.9 to 117.1.
Why would they structure it?
Oh, that's why.
What's that?
Why would they structure that like that? Why would they just put whatever you want?
Because there's three different ways that you could see it. You could have it plus or minus from the middle. You could have a interval notation, or you could have that mu is between, mu is greater than this, but also less than that. There's always, T test, a T interval, T interval.
I thought it was the Z.
No, you have a standard deviation for a sample, so it's T.
What? Oh, yeah, because the deviations, yeah.
What's Kristen's main?
Because the deviation is for a sample, not the population.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Hey, she knew my mom, and my mom did not remember it at all. But I think because she didn't know her name.
It's like,
Yeah, more.
hey, she's like, I don't know you.
Wait,
She's like, last time I saw you, I was probably like in my early 20s. And I was like,
Are we good?
No,
I was like,
It's T interval.
Yeah.
I never like so bad. And then you put stats.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you at T interval or not?
Yeah.
So then you put in your statistics,
What's hard
yeah.
is distinguishing.
Oh, I can't remember any of them. SI says sample.
Deviation.
Problem two.
So are we thinking like a final in this class then?
Yeah.
And will it be on the day of our final or like before we leave?
We'll probably try to do it
Is
before.
N a random sample? I can't remember.
N is your sample size.
N is 150.
N is sample size.
As
Yeah.
far as me, S of X is your standard deviation.
Thank you, Jordan.
oh. I don't win this video. I don't win this giveaway.
Problem 2.
No.
We have,
So what's the difference between the tests and the intervals?
A test tests a claim. The interval estimates where the mean could be.
What was the mean in the last one?
115.
And then which one is like what's the difference between the Z and T? Like what's the population?
If you only have the standard deviation for the sample, you use T. And if you have the standard deviation for the population, you use Z.
so this is the T interval then? So it's the standard deviation.
We're in high school question.
Isn't that the sample for the survey?
Yeah, that's a sample standard deviation.
But this is T interval?
Yep,
What was the answer for the last one?
C.
Can you go back up to it? It's way.
115 plus or minus 2.1.
I know, how do you know what you do? Oh, yeah. So that was for.
All right, so up here, the margin of error was 2.1. Okay?
Okay.
So this is asking, what's the margin of error for this confidence interval?
So once you get your points, what do you like add them and then subtract them? Or like do one of
Is
the
the final gonna be multiple choice?
I think you have to look at the answers.
Not all of them will be.
what do you once you get your answers, what do you subtract the greatest from like the least or whatever?
Yeah, it's
And then
it's
that'd be
how
your margin
wide from the middle you go that much one way, that much the other way. That's your margin of error. So it's half the width of the interval.
And for interval and test, usually interval, what's the deal with interval and testing?
What's that?
Like a t-test right now, instead of like a t-interval?
Yeah, it's a t-interval.
Asking why.
If it's a test, it's gonna say like test the claim.
Oh, yeah.
Like it'll tell you in the problem.
Yeah, there'll be a
This
claim.
one, I feel like
How do you get, I don't understand how you got 2.1 from the margin of error.
Because on your answers at the top, when you add 2.1 to like the 112, that give you 115. It'd give you 114.97, but you would round up. And then if you would subtract it,
Is the answer
it'd give you the
D?
other answer.
I think
I don't know.
What's your interval?
2.58 times what?
I think I'm.
We don't have to do any of that subtraction stuff here, do we?
Yeah.
Here, go down, I think it's E, let's look,
You guys have an answer?
just look.
No.
E.
We'll check in a second. Let people try to get their answers.
Just don't look,
Why do we have to subtract it? This deviation?
they're practicing on. This is what you did?
The margin of error is half the width of the interval.
What?
The margin
Oh, I
of
put
error is
45
half
here,
the
that's
width
fine.
of the,
How do you find the margin of error again?
Just do the interval, oh.
find the interval, it's half the width of the interval.
Just what? Softball.
Softball?
We didn't hear you.
Why?
Up here, 2.1 was the margin of
I
error.
heard that one.
Oh, like,
She did what?
I got like 4 point something for that, and I don't know what I did wrong. So sad.
Apparently what?
Did you subtract the two numbers?
Yeah.
It's half the, listen to me, listen. It's half the interval.
So, like, This is what I got.
2.58.
And did you subtract it?
Yeah, and then I got 4 point something.
It's half the interval.
So it's half of that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's 115 just because it's the mean?
The middle's, yeah, the mean is the middle. So you,
Okay.
so you go 2.1 to the right, 2.1 to the left, that gives you your interval.
Okay,
Yeah, something like that, but I didn't get.
I think I got it.
Okay?
Okay.
So now that's the margin of error, the 2.1.
Mhm.
That's half the interval.
Mm-hmm.
This question is asking, what's the margin of error? So you got to get your interval, and then you want to figure out half that interval, and that's should be an answer here.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
Oh,
I think it's E.
Either answer.
You guys think it's E?
I think it's E as well.
Yeah, just go down and look.
Dun, dun, da, da, da.
Oh! And right on, so.
Yay! Because when you're finding the margin of error, you
Andrew, you want a
subtract
free
the.
burger? Because you got that one right.
You're finding the
So what
margin
you
of
do
error.
for the margin of error, you do the greatest minus the least. That's how you find the margin of error.
You can do that and then halve it. It's half of that.
What just happened?
So then you divide.
Divide by
so
two.
I got
Half of 8 is 4,
2.2
half of
minus
10 is 5,
2.59.
right?
I got 2.3, or 0.23, so I divide that by 2. 'Cause it did
That's the
greatest
difference?
minus least. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, isn't it,
2.3,
And then
so what do you
divide
get,
that by
like
2, I got
1.15?
0.115.
I thought it was this minus this, and that's the margin there?
That's twice the margin of error. The margin of it, so
So
look
divide by
at, look
two.
at this, look at, do you see this up here? This was the margin of error. So you go,
Oh, yeah, it was 4, that was the.
yeah, you double it. You go 2.1 to the right, 2.1 to the left, so it's 4.2 separation.
This minus
Guess what?
this.
Yeah.
I actually tried and I got it right.
Good,
Yeah.
very good.
So, the margin of error is just Andrew.
So this was another T interval
0.112.
How do you know that again? Does it have
Like
a
that.
standard deviation?
for a sample. So it says among survey participants. So it's only the people you sampled. You have a standard deviation of 0.4. Because that goes with a sample, not the whole population.
So are
Oh,
all
I
samples
didn't-
gonna be T's?
If you have the standard deviation for just the sample, just the people you asked, then yeah. As long as you're talking about average quantitative data, then yeah. If you're talking about proportions, like 1/3 of people, then it's going to be a 1 proportion Z. So for proportions, it's always Z.
Have we done 1 proportion T?
No, there's none. Yeah. We don't use that.
Okay, so
Whenever it's a proportion, it'll be Z for us.
if T interval.
49 is n,
2.7.
that's x bar. 0.4 is your s, and 0.95 is your confidence
Why don't
level.
we divide by 2?
Because your margin of error, you go that much to the right, and you go that much to the left, so the interval
Oh, yeah.
is twice the margin of error, right?
Got it.
0.95.
So to find the middle, if you have the interval, add them and divide by 2. That averages them. To find the margin of error, subtract them and divide by 2.
What did you say for adding? You had to do what?
If you have the interval and you want the average, add them and divide by 2.
Okay.
And if you want the margin of error, subtract them and divide by 2. There's a very similar formula. This one you add, one you subtract. You guys got this one correct. Good.
I hope we have enough cheese. I was thinking about it for burgers. I think we're like,
You can literally go buy cheese at the.
not different. That's like a certain thing. If you want a beefcake burger, that's a certain
You
thing.
should email your.
So it's
Andrew, we got that nice cheese. We got that Sargento.
This is the next question.
We got that Sargento
This is
cheese.
Z test,
What's that?
Z test.
No.
What did we get for the last one?
I think the company claimed.
E.
Or the
E?
flames on the
Yeah.
paper test.
Claim and then T.
It wasn't any of these. It says it. It's highlighted.
None of the above.
So,
Like, it's not
our
the-
reason, like,
Alright.
he's like,
Oh, well.
See, Brady,
What?
it says valid in the problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a test versus
Like, hey,
UT.
like, is this like?
It's not a Z test?
Wouldn't it be a T test?
With Z test.
No, it's percent.
No.
But there's a, it
Z.
says claim, so isn't it a test?
It's a test, yeah.
yeah, it's a test. So it's definitely a Z test.
No.
It's definitely a Z test.
One prop
It's
Z
the
test.
same, isn't
Two
it?
prop Z test.
One
No.
prop Z test?
What? Do you guys have your research primer thing?
You got it right here.
What?
Your little. Yeah, that works. You could use your tree. Yeah, you could use that.
What thing? Whoa.
Or you could use your research packet that I gave you to help you with your.
What research?
Well, it's not in here, but it's definitely.
No.
It's not.
Well.
It's not below my desk.
My fingers on it.
Absolutely not.
Jesus. Dang it, Jordan.
Not one of the papers below my
Read
desk.
that.
This
I still
one.
want to read the education.
No.
Wait,
Do you have the paper?
One of the ones I gave you recently.
this one?
That works. Both of those work. Yeah.
I got that one.
This is just no. Oh, here it is. Here's a copy.
Copy what?
That started on that page,
E.
and then I'll go after that.
What do they do with all that stuff? Well, if you have those research packets too, that works too.
What one?
I think I've given them all away, so.
Say, what the heck?
Yeah.
What the heck, Joe?
I have all. Will tell you what it's for. You're asking the wrong person.
Look at the sheet they also, I mean, you
Oh,
don't
that
have
sheet?
to.
Oh, I missed it.
You have these diagrams.
Is it this one?
Dude, my uncle just had a baby. Her name's Estrella.
I have all the
Star? Yeah,
papers.
Star.
I have no idea.
I only
She's like Mexican with
see.
the bluest eyes.
I remember putting myself back.
This one right here?
I bet you she could
That
relate.
works too, yeah.
I like mine.
Oh, wait, this?
But she looks like my grandma.
Wait,
Oh, wait, this?
Look at,
Oh, it is.
What?
statistical test, right?
What?
This?
Wait, what am I looking
You have the options here, or go down the categorical side of
Oh,
the tree diagram.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Wait, is it like Joey, Jordy, or Jordan? Or
So
Joe?
let's-
Or
Chicken Joe.
Okay,
anything?
Not Chicken Joe.
let's look at this diagram. You guys have this?
Oh, I don't see that.
Okay,
Hold on, let me find
if you
it.
have this, let's start with this
You're
one.
responsible
We'll look at the
people.
other ones too. All right, so we go to the little cup with yes, so we start there. Is this categorical information or is this quantitative?
Isn't
I drew that too.
I wish I knew. How do you know? Yeah.
I wish I could be
It's categorical.
reading your.
Why do you know that? That's true.
Because you can like different groups.
Because they have numbers, you
Yeah,
got to figure it
Talk about
out.
rookies.
How many rookies,
Yeah.
how many veterans and all stuff,
Jordan,
right?
have you done senior quote yet?
So you're categorical,
What is it?
right? How many samples do you have?
Right, down.
One sample, right? We just picked the pack, right?
Is it bad?
Which one, are we down or up?
Okay, Jordan, 'cause I was thinking, when you ask.
And when you
Yeah,
draw,
wait, we're
when you
gonna
look at these cards, how many possible types are there?
3.
Which way
So how many
Because,
possible, the number of outcomes is greater than 2, right?
Or no, wait,
Yeah.
it's,
So
it's
to the
more
right?
than you, than me.
Yeah.
Right.
So what are your options here?
X
Remember,
squared
that's
test of
funny.
independence.
Number of variables is the type of card. So
There's one type of card.
there's
So
one type,
regression and
well, I mean,
correlation.
there's one variable, right, type of card.
Oh, someone's like,
Yeah,
or there's a
that's-
reason.
that's-
Huge thing. What?
X goodness.
Your melons, right?
Pi
I
squared.
answered one.
I brought
X
cookies
squared
today.
Because
Your
it's just
cookies?
Yeah.
what type of card?
X squared is
I didn't know that. Okay, I don't know
Yeah,
if
that's-
we'll go.
There's 3 different types of cards.
Number
Yeah,
of samples.
the thing we're testing
You know, I'm
is
just
variable.
tired
Type of
on.
card.
How did your thing go?
Pi squared.
Great, I didn't see you there, so I'm just.
Yeah.
I had to work. I had to work
Don
tonight.
Pedro's. Tell Scotty,
Can you tell me back to my notes?
tell Scotty that it was so important.
Do you know who I
Yeah.
am?
Which one is
Hey,
what?
Scotty, do you know who I am?
I told Scotty that he's a regular.
I had, Scotty almost hired me on stuff.
Is it really?
What?
Remember samples,
Yeah.
isn't there,
You
isn't
have
that?
one sample.
My senior.
Did you see the goodness of
Do
50?
you want to prove that?
I'm going there on Monday
It says L1 and L2.
after my game.
Whoa.
I
Then
promise
my
you're
cards
going
go the rookie, all-star, or
Bet.
veteran.
I'm.
So there's more than
Goodness
Not a
forbid.
senior
3
quote.
types of
What the
outcomes.
fuck do you do that?
When I had.
No, I can't believe
I know, I'm
you.
gonna
There's only one variable.
My senior quote's just gonna be.
You have to
I don't know,
The
like-
picture of the hamburger.
Dude, I turn in my senior quote by tomorrow.
I don't wanna do an
Somebody-
all.
Everyone has plans to be in the mouth.
Oh, or, we have never done that. Have you done that one thing where it's like,
What
in
do we
the
got?
office,
Pi squared.
Yeah.
episode, whatever, and then
Yeah,
whatever.
maybe I'll do that.
I gotta think of,
I
like,
so lost, I swear.
So it's-
I swear we have.
hey, Jordan, what's your
Where do you
quote?
find it at?
Where do you find everything else?
Mr. Love,
Yeah.
what do you put in the list?
Dude, I
For
swear.
L1, that's
I've
it?
never done it.
You put in your,
I swear, you joking? Yeah.
I don't know what to do for mine. I might do.
well, this is your review, guys, so good
It's
luck.
not bad, but like-
I thought that all you guys were gonna do it. I thought so.
If
If that's what I know, but Jordan did not gonna pass. What? You guys didn't tell me, I asked her to do it. This is going down. I don't think that I did it. So it's fine.
What is it? It's like,
This is the disgusting stuff you had last time.
it's like extra stuff.
I didn't want to
He's
do
trying.
it. I didn't really.
What do these mean? I don't know how to work this thing.
Exactly.
My mom, she
You need
is.
to make
What does
lists.
that mean?
How?
Which one are you doing?
Don't you remember how to make a list?
Oh,
No.
sorry. Mr.
Stats
Phil,
edit.
forgot you were on the bench.
This is like my second time using this calculator.
That's on you. Stats, edit.
Delete all this shit. Dude, I have no
Andrew,
idea.
I am.
Okay, but
Should I
why do we need a
change
list 1 and list 2?
my
That's
basketball
so how
coach?
you do it.
Because it requires a list.
Just say,
Okay,
I am there.
Try that.
Edit.
GB, Grandpa Bean. Oh,
All right, so enter in what you observed,
I
that's
don't know
list
if we
one,
should-
and what you expect is list two.
You have to pair them so.
Like, people are gonna know
who
who
we're
we're
talking about if we say.
So would list one be like the bottom half and list
If
two
we
be
can
the
change
top?
that.
Yep.
Okay.
Ready?
They're no one's gonna know who that is.
How do you clear the list again without deleting it?
Let
That's
me,
what Jay calls
Yeah,
it.
Jay always calls it.
let's see here.
Where is he?
What do you put in the
Where's
list?
my weekly beat at today?
Would you guys go for your favorite
Actually, Ian's a
memory?
business guy.
When I put,
You go all the way up to like, where you can like highlight L1 and L2.
when I performed
And
halftime
What's DF?
at state.
Oh, DN?
2018. Yeah. I pressed
Wait, you don't
what?
have
Do you have a
Clear
color?
and then enter.
What?
Yeah, like I don't know what to put.
I stopped playing sports after
Dude,
I
Nick,
stopped.
dude,
I
no, no,
stopped remembering
Nick
things
did that
after
to
like
somebody in our
freshman year.
CDL.
But
He's like, dude, he's like,
being
where do we
friends
get
with
this? He's
Skylar.
like, oh, I need DN.
Okay, guys,
He's like,
Probably not what you're saying.
quiet, please.
it was
Okay,
just,
so what are we doing?
Show us what to put in his list.
Stat,
Graduation.
edit.
this is my calculator.
You need an observed list and you need an expected list, right? So what did we observe?
That was 100, not 0.05.
50, 45, and 5.
Oh, wait, no, we didn't.
You should do that one.
So that's what I observed.
Yeah.
Here's what I expected, 30, 60, 10.
So is this percents are gonna be on the second one then?
Yeah.
Like once the green beans merge.
What are we putting in these lists?
The 50, the number, 50, 45, and 5 in the first one.
Observed and expected.
30, 60, 10.
Almost right.
Okay?
I don't know how people use hand in the bathroom.
All right?
Yes.
Remember when we had to go to the pot?
We got this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got it.
So stats,
30, 60, 10.
tests. We're looking for the goodness of fit test. So does it fit the distribution that we think?
What are you trying to find?
Observed is list 1, expected is list 2.
Yep.
It should degrees of freedom will be 1 less than the length of the list.
What's the DF stand for?
Degrees of freedom, it's just 1 less than the length of the list.
How do you know?
So we have 3 things on the list, so it's 2.
I can't hear
And then one girl didn't watch her hands and they were.
That's on you guys.
It's not on us.
Oh, that makes sense.
But like, and she might have just been on her phone, though, but she's still flush the toilet. You're gonna touch the toilet wash.
How do you know the?
She just looks like she doesn't wash her hands.
So there's 3 sections.
There's a couple freshman boys that.
Right.
There was a video that went along with them. Then it's into the
Same thing
power.
with like.
Do you accept the claim?
Can you explain the DF thing again?
1 less than the length of the list.
So there's just 3 things, so it's just 60, but it's gonna be slower. I think we're good.
What is like the CNTRP?
You're joking.
You don't need that.
You're kidding.
Then what do I need?
The p-value,
Why?
because that tells you if you reject or fail to reject.
You accept it or reject it.
I don't remember any.
Yeah, Did you get anything for your? I'm gonna like vomit everywhere.
Give me a second.
Isn't it if it's over, you accept
I'm like
it?
not even kidding. I just-
If it's less than your significance level, you'll reject.
What is this?
Guys, stop talking, okay?
Isn't it the X squared?
Stop talking now. Stop talking now.
What's that?
Isn't the X squared the what we're using?
No.
It's the p-value, you did something wrong.
Go to your list.
Go to your, what'd you do? How many degrees of freedom?
Or what was the DF?
You don't put
2.
percentages in because right here.
It's 1 less than the length of the list.
What's the significance here? 5?
0.05, I think.
With the DF.
Wait, so
Are you looking
how do
at
we
the-
tell if
the-
we accept or?
What number are you looking at?
Whatever it
Do
is.
you have your tree diagram?
Yes.
Where is it?
What was in the L one?
This one or the other one?
The other one.
What's going on? L1.
So you still.
You see on the right, the bottom 2
Fail to
lines?
reject it then.
If the p-value is less than the significance level, you see that? Alpha is the significance level.
You reject.
You reject if it's less than alpha.
Wait, no. So we failed to reject.
So you reject it.
Is this number less than 0.05?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is?
What am I looking at?
Yes. How is that less than E5?
If p is less than alpha, reject H naught.
Okay.
If it's greater than alpha, not enough evidence to reject H naught.
So then we
Okay.
reject it.
Everyone's
I gotta
cramming
go
like
set
everything right now, and like I don't.
You're still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we reject that claim.
No, you reject.
It's reject.
Because it's smaller than the number.
5.59 smaller
It's
than
negative.
Yeah, because it's to the next to the negative fifth. So we have to move the decimal over.
E to the negative 5 means you move the decimal left 5. So this is 0.00006.
Bro,
Are you kidding, bro? Yeah, I'm kidding.
you're the reason I can't hear Mr.
It won't be
Crow.
Is this the same thing?
You just passed it.
Yeah, it just says no. It just has the answer.
Oh.
In hypothesis testing.
Oh, wait, what was number three?
It was, no.
Pay attention, guys.
Is always true.
It's in the video.
What video?
I'm
Yeah.
recording. You told me to
I
record.
thought you were talking
How
about.
do you, how do you know if you reject again? Like, you look at P, right?
Yeah, do you have your black and white tree diagram? Do you have your black and white tree diagram?
The video's just gonna be like screaming.
You're like, I still can't hear.
Can I hear this?
And so that would be 2. So then this has to be lower than 0.05 because that was,
It's a problem.
and it is, so.
Is all these problems the ones that are on final?
They're example problems.
Yeah.
Mr. Sotelo, may we use the bathroom?
Yeah.
The
I'll
answer
pull
I
up and
thought
bring
it
it back.
was.
I don't want to take it.
It's not available.
What's computed mean?
What?
Computed.
I think it's 2.
You have to use the significance level to calculate the p-value.
No.
No, you don't need that.
The p-value is a parameter in null hypothesis? Yeah. Isn't that-
All right, in hypothesis testing, which of these is always true? The p-value is greater than the significance level. Is that always true?
No.
No. The p-value depends on the significance level.
No.
No. The p-value is a parameter in the null hypothesis.
No.
Isn't that what describes if it's reject or failed to reject?
You use the p-value to describe to determine if you keep the null hypothesis or not.
Yep. So no.
So it's not something in the null hypothesis.
P-value is test statistics down.
Because
Uh,
it's less.
The p-value is a test statistic,
Yes.
or is the p-value a probability?
What are you even saying?
It's
Yes.
probability.
It's V.
It's V.
IV.
V.
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 Yeah, sit
Yeah.
down.
I said no.
I did it right.
Good. The z-score or the t-score is your test statistic.
Oh, GG.
The p-value will be your probability. Okay?
You're known.
That's great.
Students from 2 schools.
Do you like one?
I'll go one.
Write my notes down.
We'll come back to these questions next class. I want to do some questions at the beginning, and then let's spend some time looking at your topics, okay?
I didn't
So we'll come back to this.
I really hope I can set this all for them.
You'll have to work.
We should ask him about what we want.
Yeah, like, no retakes, so.
Okay.
Something to touch my back.
Oh, I printed my paper.
I thought it
Loop.
was only-